Oops. Here we are. Here we are. My coat fell. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Because I know some of you watch me from Europe, and Europe is not the same time we are. So hello. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Grazie. Hola. Bienvenue. Aish. I don't know what German or Russian is in hello. Hello. I don't know what German and Russian is in hello. Hello in German and Russian. Hello in Irish. Is it Ireland? Ireland. I have quite a few clients in the UK. Good day, mate. No, that's Australia. Do I have? I have a couple clients in Australia. How's everybody doing? Today is the 23rd. So yesterday was not the 21st. Yesterday was the 22nd. Yeah, today's the 23rd, Friday the 23rd. So that means yesterday was the 22nd. So I do not pay attention to time at all. I don't wear watches. I don't pay attention to time. Just don't. I show up when I show up. I don't want to get caught in the matrix. No watches. No. They have their place. I actually have this really nice watch. I love Betsy Johnson, and she came up with this beautiful watch. It's like it's a man-sized watch, and it's gold. I just love it, and it's got it's super shiny, and it's like really big on me, and because I just love men watches, right? They look so sexy on women, I think. And then it's got a black crystal face, and then she's got like little diamonds and little stuff, and the hands are like the sun and the moon. And then she's got stars. She's got like little diamond stars that are in the inside, and I just love it. But it broke a couple years ago. So, but I still have it. I think I still have it. If it didn't get stolen, all my stuff got stolen. But I love Betsy Johnson watches. I like her big ones. You know, like it covered my whole wrist. I would wear a big watch if it was just like jewelry. You know, because I just like the big men's style watches. I think they're super sexy. I was never really into the little tiny watches. My parents used to give them. You know, I think they were my parents, but whatever. They used to give me watches for Christmas, and they were like the little ones, and I never really liked them. I'm not too much of a little watch person. I don't think they look that good. I think if you're going to wear a bracelet, wear a bracelet, right? And then if you're going to wear a watch, wear a really nice watch, like a really, you know, a bangled one, right? But some people like the really skinny, tiny watches. I like the big watches just because I think they're sexy. So what are we going to talk about today? Oh, yes, we've got lots of things to talk about today. So we got the date sorted out. And I think we're going to talk about Ascension process. I think that's what they want to talk about. And we're going to talk to the Assemblies of Light because they're right here. They want me to tune in. So thank you, Holy Mother and Father. Thank you for everything that everybody's been moving on. I had a wonderful conversation with a few of my clients that just come in and sit down. They're just people in the community that just come and sit for healing and things like that yesterday. And so I was very, very happy to speak with them, and they're my older clients. And they're in their 90s. Very lovely people. And I wanted to just put this out there because I say, reconnecting, there we go. There's the glitch. Reconnecting, there we go. There's the glitch. How important it is for the light workers to get out into the communities. And so, and how important it is that you learn about what's going on in the collective heartbeat, you know, the temperature check of the collective, and just to get out there and do your light work in as many ways as you can, that's free and that's accessible for people of all ages, accessible for, you know, the elderly. And so, because sometimes they're not always online and looking things up and things like that. So it's always nice to get in the community, and where light workers are always needed, to see, you know, and just get to know your community. It's really important because not everybody is online. Not everybody knows how to search things up, and you never know who you're going to touch as far as what really can make somebody's life different and better. And I had this wonderful conversation with this elderly man yesterday. He was like, I think he's like 92. His name is Fred. He's a lovely man, and he wears cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and which I worry about him because he's just had a fall, and his hip has gone out. And sometimes he has his cane and sometimes he doesn't. And I said, oh, you want some help back out to your car? I always worry about him. He just got his license renewed. He's such a wonderful man. And he's such a wonderful man. He's like he's deaf in one ear. And he was telling me about his life and about the things that we don't necessarily, think about and we take for granted. But I wanted to bring these stories forward because it's part of what a light worker does, and it's part of about taking all that you are as a perspective of the heavens and a brand of the heavens, and you are the representation of the heavens, and taking it into the communities. It's so important because, as I said, a lot of the older and elderly communities don't go looking online for the things that they really need, and what they really need is just people to listen and people to tap into, and connection and relationship, which is what Ascension is all about. And those of us that are going to be 5D leaders, it's very vital that we do this a couple of times a week. And just get into your communities and make it a regular habit of, connecting somewhere in a coffee shop where you go there on a regular basis and people get to know you. And they get to feel that, you're safe to kind of sit around and you're not chasing anybody away. And so he was telling me about, he was in this care home and he'd had a fall in his bathtub, and he was telling me that it had really hurt his hip. And I was asking him why the care home wasn't doing the steps that I would normally think of. I said, are you getting physio or occupational therapy to show you how to move in different ways? Are you getting these processes looked after? Do you need some help? And of course he didn't. Nobody's come to him or anything. And he's paying the care home to take care of him and things like that. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, perhaps, and I keep asking him. I said, if you want me to come to the desk and help you ask questions, so that your rights are looked after. And it is the part of the care home's, job and due diligence that if there's a person that falls in one of the showers, to make sure that they're looking at it for safety reasons. I mean, these are elderly people, right, in their 90s, and I know. So they do have people that do come in and care when you're doing those special things. You can have care aid people come in just for the bathroom ability things. And then they have people that come in to do arts and things like that. So there's things that they can be looked after. So I was asking him these questions. I said, if you need somebody to advocate on your behalf, just let me know. But he said he had a nephew and everything. So I said, okay. And then he was talking about, he said, but it's kind of worrying. And I said, well, what, Fred, what would you like to talk about? And he said, well, I've just seen 3 people in the community, in the care home. They've just passed away and they're not there anymore. And I said, 3 people in 1 week. And I said, boy, that's a lot. That's 3 people. And he says, yeah, there's like 120 of us. And now there's 3 less. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, do you think about those things? And I said, well, he says, well, I mean, it is a care home, so I assume it's ready. But he said one of them was a really nice lady. She was like 102, and she was very tall, and he was telling me about these people that had passed. And I said, boy, I wonder, in all of our busy lives and all of our things that we're moving through, here these people are in care homes and the elderly, and they go through so much in their stages of life that we don't really think about, and we don't really put much time and effort in because they've kind of been a forgotten generation, and it really shouldn't be, because they have so many wonderful stories about who we are and who we have been and where we can go. And he was telling me about these worrisome things that he's been going through, and he doesn't have anybody to talk to. And he said, Joanna, I'd like to, he calls me Joanna. I said, Joanna, I'd like to, I'm sitting in there and we're having mealtime and we have discussion time, to get and talk. But he said some of them are not, there mentally. And he said they're not that fun to talk to. He said, I've put the word out, in a few places. There's a church down the road. He's put the word out that he wants to find somebody to talk to. And of course, this other elderly man walked by that I know. His name is, I think his name is Hekmat. He has a very odd and different name, but he's a very sweet man. He's also in his 90s. And he was cheesing the fellow that was in front of me, Fred, that he was hitting on me. And so he says, stop hitting on all the girls. And so they were just bantering each other back and forth. But he was telling me about these situations that he goes through at his age. And he said, well, how do I find people to talk to? He said, do I look online? He said, you're here all the time, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I'm here as often as I can. And he said, I'm just looking for people to talk to. And he said, this guy at my church set me up with one of his sisters, and, and they, not as a setup, as romantic or anything, but they just came and they just chatted for a while. And then he said, and then she disappeared. She's just disappeared. I don't know where to find her, right? Because they don't necessarily pass around emails and they don't necessarily have access, nor do they want to sit at the computer. They have their couple of books that they read and their favorite magazines that they carry around. And they go to, like my grandpa did. My grandpa was the talk of the town. He knew everybody. Even when he lost his license, he got in his scooter and he took his scooter, and all around town because they knew him. And he didn't want to stop that social aspect, that who he was at the core of his being. He's a very social man and everybody knew him. And even if you go there now, all the restaurants and all the people there will say, "Do you remember my grandpa Perry?" And they said, "Oh my gosh, Perry." There's always a story about Perry. And he's in the museum because he used to work there and do volunteer work and all these things. And these are the things you learn about the people that are the forgotten generation, that they have so much to teach us as far as compassion and listening and just being there for people. And he said, I sit there and I try to listen and I be compassionate. And he says, I'm trying to be a good, kind person, because I know I'm going up there soon, and he's so funny. And I just said, he says, I know where I'm going. I'm going up there. He says, everybody in my family's dead and everybody's passed on, but I still want some good conversation. And I said, well, I'm here most days, so anytime you'd like, just come and have a chat. He's a very, very beautiful person, but he was telling me about these things that are going on in his life, and I thought, there's nobody really for them to talk to, because I said, do you have anybody that you can talk to? Like, is there anybody that comes to the care home to talk with you people about, just like, how do you feel about your bereavement process, right? Because they've had just 3 people pass away. Is there anybody talking about bereavement? So there's lots to be done in our communities. Lots to be done, that you can start something, in volunteering and just build your business until there's enough there for you to build a good rapport and go to the different care homes and provide social services. And social services is talking and chatting and just to be there for bereavement discussions, and have beautiful times where, you might not be able to talk to all of the people in the care home, but just talk to those that are valid in their mind and space, where they can have a conversation with you and talk about the things that need to be taken care of. Because you'll be surprised at the things medically that come up, or the things that they're really worried about, that I'm not involved in this man's family at all. Nor do I choose to be. I don't choose to ever get involved in those types of things. But I noticed that he was worried about so many different things from his fall. And I said, what is the care home doing for you? Is the care home doing anything for you? And what are they making sure that you're okay in your movement? Because I know from other people that I know have gone through those transitions, they do need that extra help to come in and care for, when they're having bathroom time or when they're having meal time and getting dressed and things like that. They have different capabilities, and that's what the therapists and the occupational therapists are for. But his family is not necessarily, going that extra mile because they're not there, they're not around. He had contact with a nephew, but the nephew wasn't in contact on a regular basis at all. So Now I was listening to him and I was saying, well, this is a really great service that anybody can provide, and it's needed in every care home, because I've been to quite a few. I used to volunteer at care homes, in the hospital, in the gerontology section in the hospital, and it's needed. There's so many people that are just in need of company, and just sitting with them and listening to their life stories and listening to, how they are and who they are and what's going on in their life, and what do they want to talk about, and how do you want to sit down and listen to them. And he was saying, I've got some time left. I'd like to have conversation with some really nice people that are there, that are mentally there. He said, I'm not like everybody else in the care home. And he said, I want exciting conversation. He's 92. Such a great man to meet somebody like him. But he wasn't being satisfied, emotionally and spiritually, and all of these things that he was just feeling as if, what do I do? He gets himself, as hard as it is for him to walk, he gets himself into his car, out of the car home. He drives down and he comes to the coffee shop just about every day. And he shuffles across the coffee shop. You could tell it's so laborious for him. I said, what about us? I said, you have a walker. Maybe you can have your walker to help you get around. And he says, I have one. But then he kind of made a really ugly face. And he said, oh, so you're stubborn. You have a walker, but you don't want to use it, right? Because, sometimes the elderly are like, I know my grandpa was like that. They have these things that are slowly telling them that they're losing their access to being who they are. And it's really a lot for them emotionally. And that's when they start getting sick too, is when a lot of these things are taken off of them. So this is what Lightworkers can really do, is just get into the communities, There's lots of potential there for care home, for access, to have a care home social service experience where, you as a light worker can do a volunteer service and get some people that are willing to do crafts with them or just to sit and listen with them or to help them put on their socks and things like this and do their hair. There's lots of care homes that are in need of this, and it's so needed, so needed, so needed. And it's a part of our, it's a part of our social society. It's a part of our healing, the bridges on all generations. And so I'm suggesting that as anybody that's one of those light workers that just loves to be with people and help people and loves to talk with people and, inspire easy art activities and, games of crazy eights and things like this. There's so much needed for the care homes for the elderly and gerontology, patients. Different aspects of, phases of 1, 2, and 3, where, one is, they're all capable, at various stages of understanding and development. And then so get your service and get your volunteer service and just get a couple of people that are really keen on doing light work and being there to listen and being there to do that work that is servicing of spirit and just allowing them to express who they are and to be there for them in the compassionate talk. He didn't have anybody to talk to, but he was quite worried. He said 3 of them last week, and he kept saying 3 last week. He says, so it's not 128. So he's doing the math in his head. But he said, I'm out and about. And I said, I'm so proud of you. So that it's really needed in the community. And just if you touch one heart, you've changed the life of one person for one day. And that's it's really needed for the community. So just know that. You don't have to have a light worker business, and you don't have to have your certificates in Reiki. Have yourself available in the community. And if you you'll be surprised, if you sit at one of your local coffee shops at the same time every day, you'll see the same people that come and go. And a lot of people are just willing to sit down. Like yesterday, I think I had 3 people just sit one down after the other, and each of them just said, hi, how's it going? And they gave me their spiel on what's going on in their life. And these are just regular people from the community. So they get to know you and you get to know them. And that's light work. That's being there for your community, and that's being there for ideas and how you can inspire ideas on what's really needed in the community. I didn't know this man. I don't have any, friend or familial relationship with this man, but I was able to come up with many ideas that this man could be helped. And so these are the things that light workers do. We go into the communities and we offer and we help inspire and ignite those that are in the community to start shifting your vocational service from a 3D job to a 5D job, because our jobs really are to look after one another and to bring greater care and culture back to our societies. And this is what's needed because the leaders of the countries are not. And this is what we're here for. We're here for those that are really good in economics to talk about the Assemblies of Light and to talk about New Earth systems. That's how we understand as we get into communities and we really see kind of what's going on away from the 3D media talk of politics, because we know how much the politics and the talk about politics on the media is so, it's very, we don't know. It's not transparent on any level, and it's always spoken from one or two sides. But when you're in the community, it's very easy for you to come up with these experiences and these ideas and then start brainstorming some ideas, and Source will guide you, Spirit will guide you. Because we really need to start moving into the higher vibrational bridge building of 5D and really start getting your ideas motivated. Spirit is showing me that many of you have already been inspired about how you can transition a 3D job into a 5D career vocation. And so I do those sessions. They're called career vocation sessions, and they're a series of 4 sessions on how to, take where you are right now and then offer it into a 5D experience and start building these ideas and these things that you've been working on to kind of bring together all the experience and all of the gifts and skills that you've had. Because as you're doing your ascension process, you're going to keep integrating who you are, and you're going to keep building on those Christed gifts and skills and tools. And this is all about building a more compassionate, more honoring, light-filled experience of our communities. And you can there's no other better way than serving another and just listening to them for an afternoon. And these are great light worker skills, and they do help clear your karma. They're just being there for another person, and it helps you feel good because you feel like, wow, I helped you. Thank you, Fred. And you help the people in the community. They go to the coffee shops to get social because there's nothing for them at their care homes. And if some of them do still live at home, they're very lonely. And so it's vital for us. It's vital for us. We all know that when the elderly get lonely, they get more sick and they do tend to fall. So it really helps when you're being a part of the community. So I'm suggesting again, as much as you can, those that are light workers, that choose to be light workers, that want to increase their enlightenment factor and want to increase their God factor, really get out in the communities. It doesn't take much to take a book and to take your journal and sit at the cafe for 4 hours. Sit there for 4 hours from 1 till 5 and just sit there and have yourself available. You're going to do some journaling, but you're going to put your head up and look around and smile and say hi to people. That has a welcoming heart space. And you're going to get, after a month or two, you're going to have people that just say, hey, I see you here all the time. What's going on? That builds community rapport. It builds community relationship. And then you get these really special people that it wouldn't have known them otherwise. And then there was this other fellow that comes, he went to the same high school I went to, and it was like way back when. He's like 98 or something. He was telling me about the olden days. And he came in. He's another person that wears a lot of cowboy stuff. I don't know why, because we're on an island and we're not really like cowboy. We're not like, that's more Calgary. But he's really funny. He wears his cowboy vest and he's got these brooches, these really feminine brooches that he's got on. And sometimes he comes with his wife and he walks twice a day and he gets himself out. He's like walking, gets himself out and about. He walks everywhere. And he was saying, I was sitting down with a younger girl, and she was saying, boy, look at his brooches. And I said, no, it's got shiny little brooches on his vest lapel, right? And one was the flowers and one was something else. And he wore a cowboy on a horse, a necklace. And then he had all these brooches. He's very adorned, right? He was adorned with all of these beautiful jewels. And he's very smiling. He wears a baseball hat and he has those pins from he has these pins from the school and things like that. He's so funny. He's like 90. Oh, it's so funny. But, these are the things. And he was asking me about, my books and things like that and how I'm coming along with my books. And he's expecting my books out any day. And he's trying to understand what I'm writing about. But he doesn't understand, but he listens anyways. But he's super, super, super deaf. So normally when I'm talking to him, I have to really yell. And everybody else in the coffee shop hears what we're talking about because I have to yell so loud. But he's really funny. He gets like 3 or 4 things of what I say, and then when he leaves, he says the wrong name because he didn't hear it properly. He's so funny. But then those are just moments where you just bring the community together. And then I introduced Fred and the other guy, Heckmut, I think his name is. And he went back and told me his whole life story. I think somewhere in Saskatoon or something. Anyways, we did the whole Canadian history thing. But these are things, and he was sitting down, and we then, we introduced those two together. So I was trying to get, Fred and Heckmut to go and sit together because he wants somebody to talk to. But Heckmut is really deaf, so I don't know if that's going to do it good. But I'll see if I can set them up today. But that's what we do as light workers. You just get out there and just be appeasable, and just put your light there and just put your light out and just be compassionate and be honoring to they're all God's people. They're all God's children. And we're building communities, we're building new bridges, and you get to inspire new ideas about what are the care homes doing, what are they not doing, maybe suggest some things if you do have a volunteer business. These are really important things to talk about. Like when there's people passing away in these care homes, do they have bereavement counseling where they're actually talking to people that are actually coherent and saying, is there anything you want to talk about? There's counseling services that people need, to actually go into the care homes a weekly basis and say, want to talk about bereavement? Do you want to talk about things you're still inspiring life in the forgotten generation? We want to always inspire life. These people are so inspiring. I know how it is when you're feeling lonely and you're feeling beat up, just to get up and get out. I mean, this guy's incredible. I mean, that's my idea. I say all the time, just get up, get up, get up. Yeah, this guy gets up. And he's barely shuffling across the store. He's just getting up. There's no way he's going down. He says, nobody's going to do it. Like, no, I'm going to live until he's like, no, I'm living. I said, good for you. Like, get out there. I said, do you want me to help with your car? I don't want you to fall. I said, I know you got cowboy boots on. Your cowboy boots don't have any tread. And the road is all icy. Oh, Fred. So funny. So anyways, I was trying to help him. Just be more careful. Please be careful. Because he's going to see his doctor, and his doctor took a holiday. Oh, these people are so hilarious. His doctor took a holiday and he couldn't get a hold of his doctor. I said, well, why don't you get another doctor? It's pretty important that your hip, you look really sore. But these people, they're forgotten. There's nobody looking after these people. So anyways, I had a nice talk with him, but that's being a light worker. So please, I implore everybody, if you say you're a light worker, but all you do is tarot cards and you sit in your house 6 days a week, 7 days a week, please don't. That's not being a light worker. Please put the cards down. Okay, put the cards down. Give yourself one day where you do cards, and then get out into the city. Get into your communities. Do a volunteer program. Do a volunteer card program. Take your cards to the cafe. Whatever it is, get out into the communities, people. I've been saying this for years because I have these discussions with this federations, and I have the discussions with Source Creator, and we talk about all the time the galactic of the assemblies. And if you can see the assemblies, they're in this beautiful round auditorium, and there's cascading seats, right? I've described this to you before. This is what I see. It's a cascading seat, and we're in the middle, and they're looking, and they're on-looking us, and they're wondering how we're doing back and forth, and how are we developing Earth, and how and what and why are we developing Earth, and what ways are we looking at first? They're interested in what we're doing on our development and evolution with Earth, our development and evolution with who we are, and our channeling with them, and our doing the path work, and all that I show you. It teaches you how to connect with all that is higher experiences so that you can get that cascading information of what's the highest and the best that I can offer my community. This is why the alignment is so important, because you build connection and you build relationship with the Most High. You build it with all of your teams, the Celestials, your aliens, your healing teams, and you have that higher vibrational rapport. You have that, yeah, I am here as a representation of the heavens. And then you present this forward as an essence of who you are, as a knowing of who you are, and everything before you becomes better. Because at least you put so much confidence out there to say, yes, we've got ideas. And now it's just a matter of coming together and saying, which ideas do we want to start with first? The federations would never say, you must do this, you must do that, unless there's, occasions where there's complete genocide and abuse going on, or nuclear wars going on. Those things that the federations will step in and say, yes, they'll pull rank, for sure. They have to, because it does affect the galaxy. There's certain things the federations absolutely, and the Father says, okay, that's it, pull the plug. They have to, because it affects all life. And there's just stupidity of arrogance, right? It's not needed. It's absolutely not necessary. Big boys playing, horrible games in the playground. But when you're going about it in the appropriate higher light wisdom intelligent way, you're being and you're aligned with all that you are, and you're absolutely bringing the highest vibrational information, and it's living through you, and it's such confidence, and it's such knowingness. And this is why you can go into a community and you can have your weekly sessions and your other day sessions, and you've got whatever you're hearing from the community, and you can start interjecting ideas and system fixes and system additions and system infusions, things like this that are very easy to start, and you can help, hundreds and hundreds of people. And so it's very easy to start these beautiful system fixes that don't need to start and have a petition that goes to the government, and then have the government sort through it and sift through it with 60 different third-party people and the middlemen and the red tape and the BS bureaucracy bull crap, right? A lot of these things can be fixed within the communities, and this is what we need to start. Don't wait for the government to come up with these ideas that are very fixable, and we can inspire and ignite them right now. And this is what the vocational alignment sessions are. Where are you now in your excitement and your glory of who you are as a representation of the heavens? And how can we manifest it to a 5D experience, a 5D level? And so when you have these experiences where you're in the community as a light worker, you're in the community as somebody that wishes to lead, to teach, and to heal, all of these are allowing you to align to your highest soul's blueprint. And your highest soul's blueprint isn't necessarily stuck to any one purpose, because our beautiful John, the reader, brought up a good point this morning. Sometimes purposes tie us to really strict and structured experiences that don't allow for a lot of leeway, which allows our more godliness. So really lighten up on purpose, really lighten up on what you think you're here to do, and just allow yourself to move in a generalized arena of teaching, healing, and leading. And what areas and what categories can we start building these new infrastructures, economics and finance? You know, Spirit told me a little while ago that there's going to be lots of exciting things come up with finance, and we don't necessarily have to do Bitcoin. We can have Bitcoin and banks, and this is what I see happening. I don't see banks entirely going out. There are some people that have the resources, you know, when wealth transfer takes over, that we can have smaller banks and we can have that part of an institution, and we can have those and just have it more privately run. And it's not going to be the big conglomerate where, you know, your bank fees go up every other month because it's run by, you know, billion-dollar conglomerates, and they've got the board of directors and all of those people they have to answer to. And there's lots of things that can be done for economics and finance. We don't have to have it as one way or another. And there's going to be various things like we're doing now with trade. You know, because people in small business have been, you know, squished out of their profits, and a lot of people do trade. And there are a lot of people that do under the table, which we want to, you know, if they have to do it to make ends meet, then that's what they do. You know, you can't stop them because it's how they make ends meet. People are doing everything they can to survive, and that's not necessarily the best way. So we need to have these brilliant people, the very brilliant people that are in, you know, 3D jobs, that are living these beautiful, brilliant lives, to come forward and start creating these beautiful economic systems that are outside of church and state, and start creating these beautiful homeostasis systems that are serving the people. And there's lots of things that we can do and we will do. So Spirit showed me that already. So I'm really excited. I've had many times, you know, in my history classes, I've done a few papers on, you know, how did ancient civilizations trade, and what were their trades of economics? Like, how did they trade and exchange? You know, and so that's always been a fine interest in me. You know, how did they change? Was it coin? Was it spices? And was it textiles? You know, how did they trade? What was their main tool of trade? And so that was always an interest of mine. I did a few papers on that. I think I did really well on that one. That one history paper. It was about a 98, I think. Yeah, 97 point something. That was a really good paper. I love that paper. And it just reminded me, because that's when I really activated my, you know, I remember traveling through these little places when I was in high school, college. And I did this history paper, and I was having downloads. And it was weird because I just started writing, and the teacher came up to me later, and she said, where did you get the ideas for this? And I said, I don't know, I just started writing. I said, that would just seem like the most appropriate way, wouldn't it? You know, she was looking at the map and stuff, and because she just wanted to know where I got my resources from. And I just said I would just started writing. So that's what I am as a channel writer. This was before I used to channel write, though. That was just journaling at that time. And so this is really great. So I'm really inspiring all of you to know that you can really create and come up and be activated and be inspired. And Spirit can inspire you when you're having coffee with an elderly, when you're doing your light work, and when you're being there for people. And Spirit can inspire you to say, hey, there's something needed in the community here. How can we get this going? And that's what community building is. And that's what leaders really do. They get there and they say, there's a need here. Who's going to do it? There's a need here. I want to inspire each and every one of you. There's a need here. I want to empower each and every one of you. What are the resources you need? Do you need inspiration? Do you need tools? Do you need money? There are things coming down the road that I'm working on with Spirit, and that I'm working on with many of the galactic federations that are going to be incorporative of the galactics and how they help each other. I'm also part of the Star Council, and what the Star Council does is they go to transcending developing planets that have gone through devastation, that are just shifting their perspectives of how they're living. And sometimes they need resources, and sometimes they need different things. And so the Star Council is there to be a mediator, as an in-between, to help out with the planet's developing stages and where they're at. And so that's what I do with the Star Council. And many of my guides, thank you, Holy Spirit, thank you, Holy Spirit, thank you, Holy Spirit. Many of the guides that I work with are with the Star Councils, along with the Galactic Federations. Star Councils do many, many things. Star Councils also assist with those planets that are working under very trepidatious times in war zone areas, in which they project through different technologies, which is very cool. I know about these and I can see them in my visions, where they do potentiations on if this should happen, if that should happen, because this is how they work with potentiations, because there's never ever a true 100 fit answer. There is only potentiations based on past results and current information and current energies. And so this is how they go on, where do we need to infuse energy? Where do we need to infuse light? Where do we need to, do whatever they need to do on the behalf of saving the planet and saving the life based on the Divine Father's plan. There's a lot that the federations and the star councils do to assist the planets in coming up with ideas that if the planet was to run this way, and the federations want to make this very sure that there are galactic rules and federation rules within the Galactic Federation's light Father's plans, the evolutionary light plans. Countless societies, countless planets. You can't even count the number of people that are in the Divine Father's plan. And then they say that there are certain rules that they can assist with, that planets that are within the certain galactic federations trade systems, they can help with resources back and forth. And so they help developing countries, and they help developing planets, and they help with advising with different specialists, and they help with advising different species that go to certain planets that assist with certain things. And so I'm one of these. I'm an implant, if you will. And it was very known that I was going to come to this planet and play this role. And so in that discussion and in that role, these people are sent with heightened informations and heightened systems of knowledge and understanding to assist the planet in transitioning into the higher stage of frequency, into the higher stage of information and wellness. And so there's things that can be done and things that are pulled from different planets, and planets, check in because they're all telepathic and because they have such a great, they don't get paid for any of this. These people this is just what they do. This is their service. Their service is priceless, and that's the exchange for spirit and love. And so we still have a monetary experience on this planet, but eventually it won't be. Eventually we will be just living in the unity of oneness, and we will be living from our passions. That's why I teach right from the very beginning your 3 E's, because that's all evolution is really about. But at this stage, we have to start, understanding that our energy is an exchange. So in the energy of service and development and our gifts, our skills, and our tools, how can we exchange that so that it's a fair system of trade? But there will be those ways, and there will be those systems of economics that they will be trading goods. And we don't need big complex systems. We don't need the big complex rules and obligations and things like that. We can start to simplify how we move trade. And it can be very amicable. And if it is aligned within the sacred trinity, if it is aligned with your soul's blueprint, you will be supported. But part of the Star Council's role is to tap into and be on benefit, because they are a mediator. They are a mediator for specific planets that are going through specific experiences of challenge. That's what the Star Council's role is. And the Star Council have many roles within this pocket of dimension and demonstration. That's what they do. They love to do this. And that's what I'm a part of. And so they'll pull on the galactic federations, and they work with Commander Ashtar, and they work with saying, is this what this planet needs, Commander Ashtar? What do you think? And where do you have the people? Where is the resources available? And they're the mediators of such. So they're the ones that help pull the resources. So as you see, as I'm explaining this to you, this is the type of role that I play. I am like a Star Council. I'm coming to the planet to say that as you're moving through these transitions, these are some things we can do. There's some performas. Here's some ideas. Here's God's perfect equation. Here's how you can move forward. But ultimately, they always say that it's up to you. This is your new planet. These are your new spiritual grids. How have you learned from what you've been through? How have you come together for new beginnings and new leadership? What type of new leadership would you like to see? And how can it be more like a 5D experience where everybody is included? You're inspiring everybody to get involved at rebuilding your planet, at remaking it so a point that you're bringing source into everything and spirit into everything, so that you never ever have to go outside and ask for help again, because you've then depleted all of your resources and you've disconnected from spirit, and everybody is in a 6 state of entropy. So this is what different councils within the federations do. And so I'm a parallel to that, to the Star Council. I can show you that if we continue on this path, these are the potentiations. Based on the last curve of choice, based on the potentiation of right now and the current collective energy, what are the outcome potentials? It's never 100% accurate, because there's always, everybody has free will to the last second. Everybody has free will on how they're going to behave. But the concepts are humanity and its placement right now in any situation or issue that you look at. The core vibrational problem is the disconnection from spirit. even though you can't be disconnected from spirit, but the beliefs and the perspectives have brought you into that state of belonging and behaving. You're not belonging within thyself with thyself. You're not belonging with thyself with source. Therefore, that's then when you try and create anything, you're going to be creating mishmash because you're not aligned with what source has for you. It's not natural order. You're going outside of natural order, thinking that ego has its way with you, and it doesn't. You're going to go anything you do and create out of ego is going to come back to you and say, there is a higher order here. You're on 5D land and you're in 5D grids, and you've got to create from a higher order, which is your spiritual order. Spiritual order is always your highest order. It's always your highest manifestation. Why? We want to go back to the sources equation because it's the most important thing is you can look at in every way, and every day you need to make a decision, and you need to make those negotiations because this is how the councils do it. They place whatever situation and issue is on the table, and it is up to the co-creating parties to decide and discern how is it they want to go about business. And business is, number one, the greater good. Because if it's for the greater good, and you understand the laws of the universe, and you understand that God is quantum, and you understand that all is quantum, then you would say, and you would go in and say that it's not about dog eat dog world, it's not about me beating you and you beating me, because you all know that you're quantum. Because if I'm pulling anything away from you, inadvertently or arrogantly or ignorantly or selfishly or greedily, then you're going to know that it's going to quantumly come back to you in a negative way. It has to. That's just the equation. That's the thread that you're pulling on. It's you. The thread you pull on is you. So whatever you do in any disregard way, whatever you do in any disrespect way, it's you, because that quantum behavior, that quantum thread of its attachment is you. You're just seeing it from that one side. But what we said the other day in our video, that in some of these corrupt experiences and some of these shadow governments and these shadow pockets and these shadow cults and covens, is that they wanted you to believe an illusion that they were going to flip the coin with you and that at some point you were going to get a win. But that is impossible. The way these people play, there's always the same vision on both sides of the coin because they hold it. And that's what's called bondage. They want you to believe that they're going to offer you an offer that's going to benefit you somehow, some way. But it's really not. Because you're either going to have to sell yourself, you're going to have to sell your gifts and skills to make them have their moment in the sun or have their moment on the stage because they need your light, they need your ideas, and you're going to be a ghostwriter for them while they look really great and you're barely making anything. You're the one that's enslaved. No. If you do the path work and you know who you are, you're standing in your power because you know there's nobody on the planet with your gifts. You know there's nobody in the galaxy with your gifts. No, you want top dollar because you know your worth. And even then, you don't even have to have a top dollar. You can start something all on your own and see what happens. Because God's always going to support you. But you can go into the meeting saying, for the greater good, it's not to my benefit nor your benefit to bring me an offer where you think you're going to cheapskate me and I'm going to run under the table. And you're going to walk away with everything that's mine, my intellectual property. You're going to pretend that you're my owner, that you're my manager, that you're my handler, and I'm going to be left off to the side because I have to conform to you and what you say and how you say and what I say. No. I'm a sovereign being. I'm a private consultant. I still own and I'm still sovereign. Anybody that's used my things are getting karma left, right, and center because you didn't have any right while I'm sitting on the street homeless. So there's always going to be in the sources equation, when you go into a situation pure of heart, when you go into a situation as a leader, a teacher, or a healer, and you say, under the divine universal law, under the divine precedent of who I am as a representation of the heavens, I'm calling upon the highest authorities and the highest of spirit. May this work out for the highest and for the greater good. You know the intentions I put forward. I would love for this to work out in a positive manner so that I may earn what I may earn, and I may earn what have been lost 10 times over, and so that I may get my credit back and my name back and my work back, so that I may maintain myself in a new way to put myself out there for greater service. And you say mantras like this daily, and you say mantras about what the work you've put in and how you've been devoted and how you've been dedicated, and then let Source do the magic and Source come out. Because Source, when you're doing the equation of Source, Source will always give those that are due for their karma. And Source will always balance the scale in the way of the greater good. You might not get that karma if it's always going to go to somebody, if there's something really needed of a skill or a gift or a talent that's really needed to go to somebody that has been doing the work. They're also, a good balanced person. They're putting in the good time and they're doing the greater good. And the skill does go to them. Then that does happen as well. But never, ever Never ever doubt that these systems and these equations work perfectly every time. Source knows who's going to get karma. Source knows who's ready for a good karma, blessing. Source knows everything about everybody involved. That's why you open up to the highest source equation. In any negotiation, that's the highest wisdom and intelligence. Not that you're going to go in there and you're going to get your way and you're going to come out with 10% more and you're going to get this and you're going to get that. That's why humanity is in the state that it is. And that's why there's so many homeless. Because it has never been in the ways of business for the past 20 years, in particularly, there's been a higher set of greed and gluttony when it becomes to these deals and these ideas of notions of business on the table for leadership. It's becoming more and more greedy. And you see it. Your peoples are falling apart. When the leaders behave in certain ways, it trickles down to their people, just as from the heavens above. If I'm a representation of the heavens, I am the trickle down. Therefore, then Spirit sees anyone that follows me and anyone that comes to see my work, they're getting benefit and they're growing. My crops are growing because my fruit is pure. That's how God knows who's doing the work. Because I give 100% mana. I give 100% greater good. I give 100% all that I am. It's a vibration. I don't come on and say you have to pay me $3,000 for me to do my work. I could. There's other people out there that have taken my money and they've charged a lot of money. And they had no right to. And they're now being put on hold for a little while. Because they were told last year to sit down. But their ego is saying, no, I've got to still get out there. I've still got to go there. I've got to build my business to the next $1 billion. I got to build my business. You're going in the wrong way because your intention is going to tell you where you're going to end up. Isn't that what we always said? How you do what you do and when you do what you do, you're going to tell you exactly where you're going to end up. That's the equation, right? Equals MC squared. Everything that you're going to end up, it begins with your intention. So as I said, light workers get out to the communities. Have the intention to go and sit in the coffee shop and be of service. Give, as I said yesterday in my video, have a couple of times throughout your day where you're just purely giving. You're giving of yourself. You're giving of yourself in a way that makes you feel good. You're not going to give yourself to those that are constantly clamming at you and constantly scraping for you. You want to put boundaries on those ones because they've taken enough. You want to put yourself in a place where you're going to go somewhere where you're going to benefit in that giving, and they're going to benefit in that giving. And sometimes Spirit will say, give them a little bit too, because they also need to be given to. But it's also time for, I said to Spirit, we really need to think at the Galactic Federations and the Galactic Federations Star Councils. I said, we need to get light workers up to speed. We need to get these light workers into the communities. We need to get more light workers up to speed. We need to get light workers out of the mindset where they're sitting in their homes doing their light work. You need to get into the communities. You need to have your home-based business, yes, and have your home-based business where you're in your home maybe 2 days a week. Get out into the communities. What are you doing for the children's generation? What are you doing for the adults generation? What are you doing for new education and light systems and information? What are you doing for the nature and for the trees and for the botanicals? These are things that light workers should be doing. You should be on the road. I was always taught in business, you should be on the road more times than you're in your office. Because when you're on the road, you're staying connected with the pulse of the city. You're staying connected with the pulse of the people. And that's why we are who we are as light workers, as healers, especially as leaders. Leaders should be on the road. Leaders should be meeting with the people. Leaders should be with the people all the time. Leaders should be in the gerontology communities. What do we need in the gerontology community? Let's get something started. Let's get some volunteers. And then people from those volunteers will begin to get a business set up because they can see something viable. They can see some money coming in. And then there's going to be other things where there's going to be hubs of money from the wealth transfer, and these hubs of money can help pay those community services of light worker and service and community service and so on. So these are things that are coming. These are the infrastructures that are quasi there. The energies are there. The ideas are there in the collective. But it's up to the people to get busy now and start acting. Don't wait. Don't wait for Source to say, here you go, here's your silver platter. No, you're meant to just keep going. Keep transmuting, keep acting. Keep getting in the community, keep getting up every day and keep acting. This is being active with your goals and dreams. This is being active. Don't wait for something to come up and say, okay, I guess that's my goal and dream. No, get out there. Because when you get out there, it's my number 2, which I talk about all the time, and it's my most It's my most favorite thing to talk about in Soul Blueprints because it is how I've learned and I was shown right by Spirit, by God. And I feel the alchemy because I'm a conduit, I'm a high functioning. I know exactly how I feel. These are alchemic experiences, and this is how I know what I know. This is how I teach what I teach. When you get out and you actually do the expression and you do the action, that's the divine masculine. When you do the action part of whatever it is and however it is you are with Source, that action part is what sparks the quantum God seed cell, the light at the bottom of your Kundalini, and that's what activates any one of your gifts, your skills, your talents, a memory, a vision, anything that you are in your field, anything that's in your body, anything that's in your memory bank, anything that's in your psyche, anything that you've been given by God. These are the things and how you activate it is through your expression. That's why expression is so important. You're not going to be activated with a memory, a gift, or a skill, or those vibrational touch points I've talked about before in my videos. You're not going to get activated in it if you're not expressing. You won't. You'll sit around in your home and you'll do the same thing over and over and over again. And then you'll say, why am I not seeing change? Because you're not changing. You're doing the same thing. So now what you were doing in your old light work is still becoming karmic. Do you see what I'm saying? So even though you're a light worker, and even though you're doing light worker stuff, you can still do a karmic cycle if you're not changing. You must evolve. Because your attitude and your energy is that, well, I'm doing my light work, I'm sitting in my living room 6-7 days a week. That's not evolution. You're not evolving. Right? You might add one or two things, but what Spirit is saying is be godly. Get out there. There's the planet to work with. There's nature to work with. There's wildlife to work with. And I get it. A lot of us have been so hurt and so traumatized that it's hard for us to deal with our collective, but that's exactly what's needed. Break the fear barrier. Right? Because everything worth having and experiencing through the God way is by actually going to the fear itself and facing it. Because that's where you shine best. That's where you transcend. That's where you transform. That's being godly. And this is what Jesus did. Jesus walked. Jesus was a walker. Jesus went. Jesus did. Jesus acted. And then he allowed Source Creator, the God equation, the perfect Source equation. He sat and he just allowed and he was open. Now, as I sit here, Source, what shall I do? How shall I serve? How shall I be? And then Spirit would bring people up to the table, as happened to me. If I'm sitting there, there'll be person after person after person. Because God will bring it. God will bring you your bread. But if you're not going out into the community and you're not making yourself available because you don't think that you're worthy enough, or you don't think that you're ready, or you don't think this, or you don't think that, those are old world beliefs. That's church and state beliefs. Put it to the side and say, this week, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down to the coffee shop. There's a cute little coffee shop there. I'm going to go to a coffee shop there. Maybe try 2 or 3 different coffee shops. And you can take your thermos. You can take your own. You don't have to buy it. Take your thermos and you buy your first coffee there. And then you fill up your coffee and you sit and you do your community work. Or it can be a park if you have nice weather. Some places are too cold, but if there's a nice park, then get to the park and go to that same spot where people can see you, because people go for their walks every day and they have their routines. And then you start to have your heart open and say, if there's anyone I can serve, Spirit, please allow them to show. And then your light and your aura is just oozing anyway. You're just oozing, I'm Source Creator, I'm Source Creator, I'm Source Creator. And you're just sharing your light. You're changing people, and you're carrying that octave of love carrying that octave of unity and oneness. And you're carrying that octave, yes, we should get this going, let's do this. That's where communities change and shift, because you're not sitting waiting for anybody else to do it. You're getting up and you're being it. And that's the I am that I am. That's the being vibration. So this is all about the Source equation, and this is the Galactic Federations and the SARC councils and everybody that's watching us to say, how are we going to do this next step? What are we doing in this next step? Who's going to take the lead? Does there need to be a leader? Can each of you be leaders? How is humanity going to deal with this profound experience? You've got wonderful minds in your collective. What's happening? Are you gonna connect with these wonderful minds? Are you going to connect with the ones that are enlightened? Are the minds and the enlightened ones going to come together and manifest something? Are you going to create projects together? Is there going to be philanthropy that you can create together? The haves and the have-nots? How is this going to happen? What's going to unfold? There will be some that will go out kicking and screaming. They'll refuse to let go of their money. They refuse to let go of their idealisms. They'll refuse to let go of church and state. That's fine. And they'll go through their death review in their death review. And they'll come back to the same conclusion. What you thought was important really wasn't. Did you live a good life? Were you involved? One of the most wonderful things that I remember about my grandfather is that he's known. He'll always be known in that town because he put himself out there. He heard everybody's stories, and he was always a part of the community movement, the breath of the community. They knew him. And that's a part of light work. That's a part of always being in your town and making a difference, making an impact. You can make an impact in the smallest and most beautiful way. If you're at the coffee shop and you just help one person a week, you've made an impact. Because if I wasn't there, Fred would have gone home lonely and not talked to anybody that he really wants to have conversations with, and all he's thinking about is the 3 people that passed away this week. And he's looking at his watch, counting down his hours. So really put yourself out there and know that you're making a difference. You can choose to be active in the proactive experience and be the expression. And that expression is, how am I going to take action on this experience that I want to do? Because that's how you activate the God's gifts and skills and the mRNA gifts that are transferred to you through the Akash. These are real things. I've written about these things. When you activate something that is in your field that is not yet activated by you, the things that are blessed to you and given to you as gifts, they're given to you as packages and codes. And they sit there in your fields. They sit there in your fields. They sit in your fields until you activate it. How do you activate it? Sometimes you can activate it. We're talking about the ascension process. Sometimes you can activate it by doing your daily ascension path work, where you're sitting in meditation and you ask your teams, is there any downloads in my fields that I can work with today? What's the highest thing that I can do for myself today for the greater good? These are your daily pathwork questions of spirit. It's not about how you can get your lover. It's not about how you can, have another love reading. No, because when you're okay with you, God's going to bless you with whatever divine person is going to be blessed for you. Let God do all the love making. Let God do all that stuff. God knows who's who. God knows who's where. God knows who's ready. God knows God's working on whoever. God is actively working on you multidimensionally to get you up to par and to get you equal with your mate. So God knows what God's doing. Let God do all the power mate stuff. Your role is to get you in alignment. That's your job. And then activate. And activation is through your expression. So you can write down today's pathwork. The 3 E's, which is exploration, expression, and experience. And that equals evolution. That's why you're here. You're here for these things. Now, as you're going about how you're doing your pathwork every day, you're going to look at what's going on in my day today. Is there anything I need to be aware of? And you're asking your guides, what is the highest thing I need to be aware of today? And then you sit and you listen. And your guides will say, you've got someone coming forward. This is a test for you. And then where are you at in your ascension cycle? And you're pretty much going to know what you're going to be tested on. If you know your ascension pathwork, you're going to know what you're going to be tested upon. Because everybody is coming towards you as a test. Are you being tested? Are you more compassionate? You're being tested. Did you set boundaries? You're being tested. Did you ask for your money back because they owed you? And you refused to ask for it because you didn't think they were ready and you were too shy to ask for it. No, get in there and ask for it. It's your birthright. So you know that in your daily life, you're in your daily life because of those 3 E's, which equals your 4. You're here to evolve. So you know that every day you're going to be tested with something to make you and help you evolve. And you're going to be learning, because everybody is, your divine feminine energies and your divine masculine energies. These are given every day. There's a given. And then it's up to you to say, okay, where did I get triggered in my divine feminine energies, my divine masculine energies? Was there any distortions? Was there any dissonance? Where was the resonant issue that popped out at me? Where were my beliefs and my perspectives? Because your beliefs and your perspectives are sitting in 3D that you've set off to the side. So now you can get on with your pathwork and say, I know that it's going to trigger me. I know that it's going to come up. So let's do my pathwork. Because you've set it off to the side. You don't want it in your cycle anymore. You said, no, I'm going to set it off to the side. That's not me anymore. So that in my daily pathwork, Spirit's going to show me, okay, well, you had your trigger yesterday. So now that you're on this new cycle, let's deal with this. Let's pull that trigger forward. And then you map it out. You vibrationally, emotionally map it out. You intellectually map it out. And that's doing the pathwork. That's doing the pathwork so that this in your field becomes active. Your field becomes more clear. It becomes more harmonic. And then you're working right in the middle of your Vesica Pisces. That's you and Source Creator. You've said, yes, Mother, Father, I'm in the middle with you. I'm here with you, Mother, Father. I'm your representation of the heavens. Show me what to do next. This is the work. And so anybody that's coming at you from the outer, you can say, yes, I've done this. I got the work. I've got God's perfect equation. I know how to center myself within the Vesica Pisces. That's doing the work. I know how to look at my triggers. I know how to pull out whatever's from yesterday. I know how to put it on the table and say, I can have a higher viewpoint of what's going on, and I'm here for my 3 E's. I want to evolve. We're here to evolve. That's all we're here for. And that evolution is going to be driven and guided by the hand of God. How can it not be? We're all threaded by the hand of God. How can that not be? So you can relax and have fun now. And what you're meant to do and what you think you're meant to do as a purpose, let's relax on that a little, because when you go out and just have a beautiful coffee and take your journal and look up every once in a while and look people in the face and smile at them, you never know who you're going to bump into and who's going to bump into you and what you're going to be offered next. So let God, again, in God's perfect equation, if it's for the greater good, that means that you and you and you and you and you and you in any situation are all going to be given the highest and the best. Trust God. Now, what's you as a leader, if you're a leader of a business, if you're a leader of a company, if you're a leader in this way, and you want to choose to work with God's greatest equation, you want to start to align with 5D grids, you want to start aligning with the sacred Trinity, what you need to do as a leader is get to train your employees and get to train your staff to say, when we're going into this negotiation, it works out highest and best for all involved if you all just open up your hearts and trust that the greater good will always be at hand, always. So have everybody else open, because they're going to open their spirits and their gifts to also be moved and activated. So that they might not get it after the meeting, they might not get it first initially, but maybe during the night there was enough energy movement there was enough source energy in that meeting, there was enough trust, just enough of a mustard seed, there was enough trust for source just to activate that person, so overnight they were changed alchemically. And you can feel these things in your body. These are things you can actually feel. It's a biophysical change. This is source. And that person wakes up a completely different person. They've alchemized differently. They've been put together differently, literally. Every day you put yourself back together, believe it or not, every day. This is why when you do your healing work at night and you allow regeneration at night, even when you're on your light ships, you're put back together equally the next day, differently, however you intended. Because remember, your cells will just replicate to the last cell cycle. You have to encode and you have to entrain yourself into higher vibrational entrainment. Then your cells start listening to you. That's why we say in all of our offerings, say it out loud. Start encoding your cells. Start encoding your muscles. Start encoding everything that you are as a version of omnipresence listening. The omnipresence is listening to you. You're the omnipresence as a matter form listening to it. The key to mastery is not to get wrapped up by what's going on in the outer, but to reestablish yourself and said, I'm the stronger version of resonance. This is who I am. I'm changing creation. This is why people have said, everywhere I go, I alter where I am, because I'm the strongest resonance. It converges around me. This is what we're learning. Instead of being altered by the outer. No, I am the inner. Therefore, I am the outer. Does that make sense, dear lighted ones? Thank you. Isn't it fun? Once you start Ascension Pathwork, you can't go back, because you realize how very smart you are. You realize how many different universes you're on, how many different dimensions you're on, and all the beings that you're connecting with. And so I had a few downloads the other day that I just wanted to talk about. Some things that I had downloaded that I'm going to start doing some channel writing on. Spirit was showing me the biocosm. Biocosm is not something we have right now. It's just it's a celestial thing. It's bio with a dash, COSIM, biocosm, and paragenetics, which has been a buzzword for the last about 7 or 10 years. Paragenetics is going to be huge, a huge study that we're going to be branching off to. Again, one of the premier authors, Thothic authors is Mayanard Tumid. She has a lot of writings about paragenetics. I would only go to her, for the spiritual side of paragenetics. She is a very in-depth writer about the paragenetics through Thoth. That was the only people that I would trust, right? If you're getting it from an underground lab, like some of the people have been doing in their cloning labs and stuff, don't ever continue those types of, go to the sources, and the sources at the highest level of discernment and understanding. She's a very technical writer, a very she's a Thothic author, or she's a Thothic channel, and so Thos is all about science and math. She's been writing about paragenetics for quite a while. And so I would go to Maya Nartumid. She's a great author on paragenetics. And so I'm going to start to branch off into that. So I'm going to have to tap into a bunch of her stuff too, because I'm going to start to learn about paragenetics. It also has to do with the hybridization program. And so that's going to be something I'm going to be tapping into. But what they wanted to tell me is we're going to talk about God codes, because God codes are, again, what we talked about. The God codes are in your fields, and the God codes are delivered to you by your higher self and by your teams, as well as God, obviously, because it's a blessing from God. And these God codes are little packets of light that are for you to unpack. The God codes are also aspects of light codes given to you by the sun. They're also aspects, if God wants to come and give a blessing to the collective, God will bless a blessing of codes and light, which is, in essence of its vibration, is what? What are light codes? We want you to go within yourselves, and we want you to seek out this answer within yourself. What are light codes? That's right, harmonics. Because everything in creation from Source Creator is harmonic. There's a harmonic of love, there's a harmonic of joy, and of course, joy and love, infinite experiences of harmonics within joy and love, obviously, because Source is infinite, so too are those aspects. So this is just how infinite Source is. And we think about Source and we think about God as being the all-being God and the all-being infinite, but this is incredible. If you just think about one vibration of an experience of emotion, like endearment. Endearment can have an infinite number of explorations and experiences and expressions. And how infinite are you as a creator? And this is why I say, once you start awakening and once you start waking up as a representation of the heavens, you'll never go back. Because if we just talk about endearment, now we're getting close to Valentine's Day. And you talk about endearment of something that you love. It could be endearment towards a project, endearment towards humanity, endearment towards the children, endearment towards nature and animals, endearment towards a lover, endearment towards a piece of art. Whatever it might be. And in the infiniteness of all that Source is, and the infinite number of universes, infinite number of galaxies and planets, I mean, it's truly infinite, really is infinite. In this one idea of endearment and being endearing and having someone be endearing to you, for you to give and receive endearment in your divine feminine, divine masculine energies, this is called doing the pathwork, and this is called raising your consciousness. Because heretofore, you had never thought about these wide and vast things. You would never think about being godly in this way. And God says, why not? You're here to explore endearment. You're here to express it. And you're here to experience it in as many ways as you're meant to. And this is the I am within the I am. Are we getting it, dear lighted ones? So you can take any topic. You can take any vibration. You can take any emotion. You can take any idea. And you can expand it within the infinite. And you can also bring it back down within the minuscule. This is Source Creator. This is the I am with the I am presence. Now you're being godly. Now you're raising your consciousness. Because once you start, you're never going to stop. And you just can't wait to be more intelligent than you were a second ago. This is godly. And it's not intelligent on an ego perspective. This is intelligent. You just can't wait to be a kid again. Because there's so much to explore. You can't wait to lift that rock up. How many of you remember going to the beach on the many number of your field trips, and your teachers would give you a couple sheets of paper, and you were there to draw, and you were there to write out the ecosystem, and you were there to take whatever it was, and you had a little container, and you get to draw things, and you get to write it out, and you, at the end of the day, you got to explore with the rest of the class 30 things that you could draw from the ecosystem and talk about it. And you remember your teachers always saying, now there's some rocks you can pick up and some rocks you can't. Now you got to see if it's got coral on it, and you got to see this and this, and then your teacher would say, now this is the rock you can lift up, and the kids would be so excited. You remember all of us, we can even go to a very shallow piece of water, and there's a rock sitting there with some water and some beach rolling up around it and under it, and then you lift up that rock and something amazing happens. What happens? You see a whole ecosystem, you see a whole world. A whole world. And I used to tell my kids, wow, look at that. And we used to dig a hole and we used to make a little, make sure the water would run, and we'd see all the little tadpoles and all the little life right up close. See the little crustaceans underneath the rock? But if you didn't lift that rock up, you wouldn't know. And that's just like most of us on the surface, isn't it? You just look at somebody and you don't really know what's going on until you lift up a bit of that layering. And you lift up a bit of the things of judgment and the persecution and the ostracization and the judgments and the blasphemies and the defamations that people have been covered with, and the church and state beliefs and perspectives that we're all veiled and we're all being weighed down with. And now it's time to throw off the shackles. And now it's time to lift up that rock and see what's going on with humanity. And there's a lot of beautiful ecosystems within our planet. There's a lot of beautiful ecosystems that are being birthed right now because of the consciousness awakening. And when you lift up that rock, it's like opening that God seed cell. That no matter what, no matter how, no matter what way, no matter what you're doing, you could think it's something and you can think it's nothing, but I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be something, because that's God. So if you're just sitting down with a coffee and you're getting your hair cut or you're going and lifting a rock, absolutely bet that God's going to awaken you to something that's godly, because it is, and how can it not be? This is gaining your consciousness. No matter where you're going, no matter what you're doing, there's God. And you're going to find that connection. That's godly. When you seek the connection of all that is God, that's godly. And then you're going to find more and more and more and more synchronicities. How can it not be? Because all you're doing is seeking God. And that's a harmonic. Because you're so excited to know God again, and you're streaming with God, and you're living with God, and you're threading with God, and you're exciting with God, and you're thinking of God, and you're moving with God, and you're eating with God. It's all God. How can you not get a synchronicity? Now, this is where the core of all teachings should begin with all children. Come back to the center, come back to the zero. This is why the 1 and the 0 are so important. There's always source creator. Who are you? Who are you within source? Source is found in all things. Take a botany lesson. Go out to the forest instead of the ocean. Let's do the same thing. Let's go to the forest, boys and girls. And you go out to the forest and you look at the moss and you touch the moss. How different does it feel than a hot summer field? Look at the contrast. Look at the paradoxes. And then there's an old tree that had been fallen down for maybe 100 years, and it's grown moss and it's emptied out the hollow of the tree. And then you have the children look inside the tree and look inside the hollow. And there's a rock nestling up the side of it as it fell. It fell over a rock. And look under that rock. And the children all say at the same time, wow, look what's going on under there. Whoa. You see the slugs and you see the spiders and you see all the little animals and insects that love the dark, wet places. You might see some fungi. You might see some epiphytes just growing and having a great time. Life is happening in the darkest places, dear lighted ones, just like your shadow. Life is happening. Take a look at the little bits and pieces in the shadow. Take a look at little insects and things moving around. What you got to say down there? So you got to have respect for all realms. What you doing down there? What you got going on? It's all godly. How can it not be? And then you walk around with excitement, and you walk around with the 3 E's. You can't wait. You're waking up every day and you're evolving, and you're bringing new life to this planet. And instead of a collective looking down and solemn and lowly, no, you're going to bring life to it. And you're going to bring that spark of God, because it's everywhere. It can't not be. It doesn't matter what you talk about. You can talk about the oceans, the air. You can talk about the gardens. You can talk about the coffee shop. You can talk about a family. You can talk about somebody that just lost their brother or their sister or their daughter or husband. There's God there. And how are you getting excited to be here now, dear lighted ones? Because that's my job. My job is here to inspire you and uplift you and engage you. How are you doing today with your 3 E's? How are you looking at your alchemy? You can accept it and acknowledge it. You're going to allow it to be something new. The 3 A's. Because that's alchemy. And you'll feel it inside your body. And it might not be today, it might be tomorrow that you're going to wake up feeling brand new, because you're giving yourself a bit of time to let it go and purge. Because you knew you didn't need to carry it anyways. It's not for you to carry. You're here to evolve, so let it go. And anytime you're around anything that's nature, I dare you, I just dare you. I dare you to lift up any rock and lift up anything that you see sitting there. And you'll be amazed. It's godly. And God's going to say, welcome to planet New Earth Star. Are you ready to play? Are you ready to reconnect again, children? Are you ready to play again, children? Are you ready to see new gardens, children? Are you ready to get together and create and collaborate, children? Because your genius is here and you can create something that's far better than the systems you had. Because all of you know how it didn't work. And all of you know how it can work. And all you got to do is get rid of the red tape. All you got to do is get rid of the bureaucratic BS and get down to business. Because the people need you. The people need your leadership. That's why you're here. Your collective has appointed you. You're the ones that can sit in the coffee shops and bring peace to all people because you just vibrate it. You can bring ideas and infrastructure because that's your gift. You can just make something out of nothing because that's your gift. You can get children excited again about learning about the planet and being one within the collective. That's your gift. So what are you doing sitting in your home 5 days, 7 days a week, reading tarot cards? We're changing, dear lighted ones, and we need you to level up. Your consciousness is aching for you to stretch out. Your consciousness cannot grow if you're doing the same thing. Get off the cycles of boredom, because you ain't going to learn there. You're going to learn by doing. You're going to learn by the expression of who you are as God. Isn't that right? And don't you feel it? Don't you wanna? But you just got so many insecurities, and that's okay. Because once you just do it, just to get out there and do it, just like a man who has the audacity to go and see if he can woo and court a woman that he's just so in love with. And he'll think about it for months and months, and sometimes even years. And he'll watch her from a distance, and he'll watch her from afar. And then one day, he's just got so much inside of his belly, and his belly is all knotted up, and his belly is going to stay knotted up until he actually meets her. Because he knows that that knot in the belly is everything in creation saying, you can do this, just go. You know you're meant to be in front of her. Because if you got yourself all knotted up, then it's got to be pretty special. Because life just works that way. You don't get knotted up for nothing. And that man presents himself in the best way that he can, and he fumbles his words, and he's a bit shaky and starts to sweat. And the one that he's put himself before, she feels a consideration, and she feels a certainty and sincerity there that's never been felt before. And all of a sudden, she gets activated, because he, in his expression, is now allowing her for her new expression. And they're both being activated in their God sparks. Wasn't there heretofore a second ago, until he decided, I got to resolve this knot in my belly. I'm just going to go forward. I don't care what happens. I've just got to get this done because I got to sleep, and I want this knot out of my belly. And that's following spirit, because spirit will make you as uncomfortable as you have to be until you get done what you got to get done. You got to express. And that's the healing on this planet. And it's going to happen in a bajillion different ways. That's how each and every one of you are going to wake up. Because you're going to get expressing yourself and you're going to say, wow, that felt really good. And why are the leaders trying to make us not express? Boy, that felt so good. You're going to connect with people. You're going to lift things up. You're going to turn things over and you say, wow, look at this. Look at this discovery. I'm putting myself in front of you. I felt a little nervous at first, but wow, look at you. You're just my new best friend. We just became best friends in 10 minutes flat. Because you just got over it and you did it. And that's what God said. You just get over it. Your insecurities are going to just go away just like that. Because that's God's perfect equation. Because when you do something for the greater good of all, you're going to find that person that's just going to be as loving can be and say, boy, it must have taken a lot of courage for you to be this and for you to do this and express this. I thank you so much, sir. How polite of you. For the first time in a long time, this woman has had somebody that's cared just enough not to be stolen, taken, and raped from, and not to be told a million different horrible stories that are all lies. But no, this one man came forward in all of his bravery and has all of his glory. A little sweaty and a little awkward, but I love you just the same. Because you got guts. And you did what you needed to do. And isn't that brave? Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that godly? And then he wipes away the sweat. And she lifts him up. He's not trembling anymore. And now these two people have come together to create a whole new version of love that's never been seen before. And even if they say best friends, and even if they're lovers, God brought two people together that heretofore could have never, ever happened. If you don't get out and express all that you are, when you're guided to, when you're heeded to, when you're shown, when you're given, God's going to inspire you in every moment. Through people like me, through the federations, through the feathers and the angels, and the numbers and the songs, and all that is vibrational harmonics, because that's God. God is everything harmonic, and everything's got a vibration. And what are you attuned to? You're going to play, dear lighted ones. You're going to play again. Lift things up and roll things over. Let's make something new. This is our garden, and we're going to make it work. Are we all on board, dear lighted ones? Now we're going to talk about one part of Ascension pathwork, and then we're going to do another activity like we did yesterday, and we've got a few minutes for questions. We're going to talk about the very important part about processing. And what is the part about processing in your Ascension pathwork? Processing is when you have had a cognization, when you've had something come forth, either be a dream, a vision, or an interaction, or an exchange with another, or your God or your guides, and you've had an epiphany. That's what an exchange is. It's an epiphany of 2 points coming together through which you're at a different state of understanding. It doesn't get cognized, though, until you process those 2 points of information. Those 2 points of information can be paradoxical, it can be polaris, it can be similar, it can be parallel. Whatever those 2 points are that are coming together, the past and the now, the was before is now, the what was is now, beliefs or perspectives, what's now, that's what we're talking about. And they're the crisscrossing of energies, the crisscrossing of timelines, crisscrossing of what you were and who you are, crisscrossing of what was then, what's a new potential. This is what we're talking about. Processing is when there is a convergence of 2 or more things, and you're having that time in which you have seen the collision of these 2 things, and you're allowing yourself processing time through which it has taken its multidimensional process. And process is like you're putting things in a blender and it's all being mixed up. And it has to. Sometimes God will force it if you're not taking heed, and God will force the mix-up, and God will force the alchemy, which you don't want to do. You kind of want to do it in your own time, where you're recognizing and you're acknowledging as part of alchemy. I'm recognizing and acknowledging that something's coming towards me, and I've got to think about these 2 factors. Am I going to go A or am I going to go B? What is it that I truly want? And you go within and you begin to process the incoming potentials. There might be 3 or 4 potentials, but you know that there's incoming information of what was and what can be, because you're always going to move to a new potential. That's part of your processing. The second part of processing, that's the first part, is your acknowledgement. You're acknowledging that something's coming in. You're acknowledging that information is changing. You're acknowledging that vibration has changed. You're acknowledging that something's happening here. And it can be, it's all energetic first. And the more that you do this, the more you're going to tune into your bodies and your skills and your gifts, clairsentience, clairaudience, and all those things that you have as celestials to tune into. Because you're always processing, you're always sending and receiving information. But now we want you to be more mindful, and we want you to be more heart-filled as you're sitting down doing your pathwork every day. What are you processing today? And sometimes you can say to your friends, if you've got somebody that goes through the process of ascension with you, like you have a partner that's also doing ascension, and you can just tell them, I'm just processing right now. And that's when you just need time to be left alone. You're processing, right? You're processing the information. You're processing the potentials. You're processing the opportunities coming at you. You understand that there might be an A, B, or C. And then part of that processing is that just allowing the information to absorb within the multidimensional bodies and arenas. That's a part of processing. Acknowledgement is one. You understand change is coming. You understand there might be options and pathways in the acknowledgement, that something's coming energetically. Energy is being forced, whether it's because of your intention, direction, and focus, and it's timely, your God's all divine timing, or for sources forcing it because of destinies in the Father's plan, etc., etc. That's an infinite number of possibilities. So acknowledgement is always one. You can acknowledge it. You can acknowledge it through the feeling, sensing, and knowing. That's also processing. You're processing energy. You're a higher vibrational being, thought, word, and deed. The second part of processing can be a day later, perhaps. The more you take time with it, the more you're going to be the sandwich and the salad. This is the consciousness gaining. You're gaining consciousness. You're being the inhale and the exhale. Second day of processing is saying, okay, now I've sat with the potentials. I know something's going to happen. This is how I truly feel. I've had some time to sleep on it. I wake up the next morning and in my belly, because Source knows what Source is doing at nighttime, your higher self knows what your higher self is doing at nighttime, and why you regenerate and why you do the healing and why you do your healing sessions at night. Because your healing sessions at night further activate you into the Source's perfect equation, i.e., this is what I do. Source, as I fall asleep tonight, can you help align me, body, heart, mind, and soul, to my highest potential for tomorrow? And in this highest potential, I want to align new cells, new development, new health. I want to align the higher thought forms for this particular experience. You're intending it as you sleep. Therefore, thus then, the energy goes into your intention and you're moving your energy at night. You're going into classes on the Federation starships. You're going to meet Mother, Father, God for a beautiful download. You're going into a temple to do healing. You're constantly doing these things at night. And so the next day you wake up and you're in the second phase of processing. And processing is when there's been things happen in the higher states, in the higher states of consciousness, in the ethers, higher states of consciousness with your higher self. And of course, God has his hands all over everything right now. So you might not have a lot of, you might have various time periods in these times I'm calling in these phases of processing, because God's got his hand on things and God wants things to be happening here, here, and here. So then you just got to keep up, right? Get your bags and keep up. So that processing of day 2 is like, okay, you're sitting doing your path work. Now in the morning, you had a dream, you had a little snippet in your dream, you had a number that just kept blaring at you in your dream, and you saw the number on the card, and then you saw the number on the house in your dream. So you're writing the number down and you're looking it up and you're tuning in and you're observing and reflecting, and you're talking with your guides and you're communicating. This is all a part of processing. You're gathering more information on this second stage of processing. Your body is slowly integrating. Processing and integrating kind of happen at the same time, but not really. You're processing all the information, you're processing your action, you're processing your expression, you're working with the energy, you're talking with your guides. It's a minutia. You're learning, you're growing, you're being your conscious self, you're being the inhale, the exhale, you're being the mother and the father. And so you let that sit for a day and you're going about your day, you've got your job, and all of a sudden you're open, and as you're walking about with no particular forcing, no particular having anything to occur, no particular forcing a pattern or forcing an outcome, you just allow your day to occur. You're still processing. Because your higher self is always active, the omnipresent is always active, and we're always evolving. Every second we are evolving. And as you're going for a walk at lunch, you see something come to your eye. And you're walking by a bookstore, and all of a sudden this book kind of throws itself off the shelf at you. That's also processing. Because if you weren't processing what happened the night before and the day before, you wouldn't have had that book fly off the shelf at you. That's a quantum interaction. Do you see what we're saying here, delighted ones? Your processing is active God in active God omnipresent, because everything you emulate and everything you pulsate is coming back to you. Therefore, thus then, it's important that you know your ascension cycle. And when you are processing, you're actually putting out there higher vibrational information. You're actually pulsating information because you're key to start churning and working in who you are. You're alchemizing. It's a very important part of your churning into God. Because your God's going to show you, wow, that book, I didn't think about that book, but boy, it's exactly what I need right now. That's why when you're processing, you always get that book you need. You always get that sentence you need. You always get that song you need, because it adds to the alchemy and the churning of your transmutation. It's a very important stage. It's a very powerful stage. So allow the processing to be as long and as wondering as you want. And you can always go back to processing. I've always said that. Even if you have a dream 2 weeks later and you think you've done with the dream, you thought you dealt with it. You're never dealt with everything, because you can go back 2 weeks later and you might have a hit, a secondary or tertiary hit in your dream that had something to do with the dream you had 3 weeks ago. And that 3 weeks ago is important now because you're now on a new ascension cycle, but maybe there's a bit of residue you got to deal with. But this residue is really important, because this residue is actually what you need to become the next teacher in this one area. And this is what's called being tapped in and tuned on, because nobody can take you off your path or your square, because you know exactly what's going on in your ascension path work. And you know that one little crumb and that one little morsel that God gave you in your dream, and that your higher self gave you in your dream, that your soul and your spirit and your ancestors gave you in your dream, is exactly what you need to keep processing further on something that's never been done before. And you're going to make it something new, because we're now becoming 5D, dear lighted ones. And the ascension process is pivotal to who you are becoming as an evolved being. It's a sacred process. And how you process information will be changing as you raise your consciousness. You're going to want to be conceptual, multidimensional, interdisciplinary. All of these things help you expand within thyself. And this is why processing is very key. And this is why we said once again, who are you as a light worker and how can you change to be more multidimensional? So that your processing can be new and different, so that your activations and your expression can be new and different. This is evolution. Find new ways to be who you are as a light worker. That's the bottom line. Because you want to level up. And the only way for you to level up is to activate yourself. Don't wait for anybody because we've never been here before. It's up to you to be that for you. And I am your guide and I'm your bridge to assist you and to guide you, but you must do the work first. This is getting in the elevator and pushing the button, and it will be supplied for you as always. That's the promise of God. That's the God's perfect equation. It's always there in all things. Now, as you're processing, you are absolutely changing. You are changing your mentality. You are changing your physicality. You are changing your spirituality. You are changing your thought processes. You are changing your intelligence. Everything about you is changing in the processing stage. You get to sit and reflect and observe. What can I let go of today? In a part of this new discovery, it's been very paradoxical for me to see this and this and this way. But it makes sense. I must. Because when I sit down at the table for varying parties, I get to say, I see that resonance. I see that resonance too. But how about this? This is called being a higher vibrational dimensional being. Because you're allowing the processing to be your intelligence. That's godly. You're not seeing one point on the schedule and on the map. You're seeing various points on the map at the same time. That's multidimensionality. That's processing. Allow the process to be what it is. You can see it visually. You can hear it. You can see it alchemically. You can see it on whatever side of the kaleidoscope is needed. So I'm giving you hints and tips on how to be a better healer, teacher, leader in the top of your category. Because you want to start to be multidimensional now, because you are, you always have been, but you've been stuck in ways of doing things in a very linear way, a linear perspective. Now you want to step up into multidimensional. That's what processing does. Processing allows you to stop and take a snapshot of what's happening and see it for the various threads that all sit within. And then you get to more accurately and appropriately look at the potentiations and choose, again, through the God source codes and the God source equation, through the highest and the greatest give. But you absolutely know that if you're doing so, it will absolutely be higher than it was the day before. Now, part of processing you have to be patient with, because again, we're all changing. And the people that come to the table next, because remember, especially if you're in a group think experience, especially if you're in a business or a quantum experience with other people, they are also at various levels of consciousness. They're also at various levels of their DNA activation. They're also at various levels of intelligence. So you as a leader have to be at your processing experience to say, let's pause and let's just suspend ourselves within this experience so that you can altogether process in a homeostasis where you're bringing the best of everyone's highest potential. And that's not looking at things from the bell curve. That's looking at things in a suspended state of the highest and the best of everybody involved. And therefore, you're picking and pulling the highest and best of everybody involved. Therefore, the bell curve is going to be higher. Processing is going to be for everybody because you're quantum. It can't not be. So just as you're going through a God activation, make no mistake, everybody around you will also be activated. This is why it's very important for the divine feminines to be with their children, because they hold and usually carry the highest light. And their children need their light to activate their DNA, to activate their destinies, and to activate their plans. And we've said this before. And again, why have you taken divine feminine out of the social society's equations? Divine feminine are needed for their light. People are guided by divine feminine. They know how to run a house inside and out and upside down before you even get up and take your bathroom break. And yet, where are we? We're on the street, barely making it, fighting for our rights. And that's not just something that's not something that's happened out of natural order. I'm telling you that right now. That's not a natural occurrence. You see the number of women on the street today, that is not a natural occurrence. Those are intentions and agendas. And that's a no-win situation. And so, dear lighted ones, we have a few minutes left. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Galactic Federations. Oh, goosebumps. That felt really good. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So we want to take a big breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Anybody would like to give me donations? I would absolutely love that. I do need I do need more tools. I need some tools for my business. I need some more supplies. And of course, all my debts are backwards and sideways because of all the systematic abuse. So those people that owe me, it would be really nice if you actually paid me instead of just talking about it and wanting to come talk with me, which you're not going to do. Right? Well, so let's just say that again, because Spirit's been showing me that there's people that want to come back and talk with me from the past, and we don't need to talk. I don't want to talk with anybody from the past. The only people that will come and talk to me in person are authorities that are going to give me the information and the files on the crimes and abuses that were done. So those are the only people that are going to talk to me is the authorities. Everybody from the past, you know exactly what we've talked about 100 million times. So please go to, you can send your confession in written form to my bank. If that's what you wish to do. I don't know. If you've taken money from me, then you need to pay it back. And that needs to go directly to my bank. You can send a check. If that's how sources advised you. Those companies and those businesses involved, you all know that you owe me. There's retribution that's owed, that have been messing with me and testing and experimenting on me and all of those things, and directing the cults and covens to do hits on me. I'm needing to get my things because I shouldn't be sitting homeless on the side of the street. Not at all. I'm leading leaders of the world here, and I'm sitting on the side of the street. I can heal people out of their diseases, and I'm sitting on the side of the street. I don't sleep properly, I don't eat properly, and I'm sitting on the side of the street. I can tell countries how to get out of their financial woes, and I'm sitting on the side of the street. I had nothing to do with any of this, except be their victim of a bunch of lies and callous malice. So who is going to be brave, and who is going to work on their karma, and who is going to take action? Spirit has shown each and every one of you what I need, and what I need right now is the finances to get my financial credit bureau and all those things back to normal. Taxes are going to be due, bills are due every week, bills are due every month, and I have nothing. And it is exactly 100% due to the shadow government and their cults and covens and those people that have no idea who I am, have never talked to me before, and my ex was involved in the cults and covens. And their intention was to kill me. And their intentions were also to take my children because of the bloodline. And so the investigators that are on these experiences, at what point do I get justice? The Father is going to have to give it to me because nobody in human form is doing anything. So therefore, that's then your karma will be, right? So you can't complain. Can't complain about your karma because you've chosen it, right? Does anybody want to ask a question? Donations, paypal.me/Joanna L. Ross. You can send checks, you can send drafts to my bank's address. That would be nice. Attention, client pickup, attention, Joanna L. Ross, Joanna Cosmic Angel at yahoo.com. The address is on my YouTube page. If you want to book a session, it's $250 US right now. Those are my regular prices for a 90-minute session. And you get a lot of that session. You're activated multidimensionally. If there's anybody famous or a celebrity that wants to talk with me, I don't share any files. I delete everything. With the system that I'm using now, I don't have any recording system, so I don't keep anything anyways. It's up to you to record on your end. I usually, coming out of channeled state, I don't remember most of the information, so I only share it in the ways that I will talk about it in, a generalized experience. I had a client last week of might be something vague about, having a Pleiadian team guide and things like that. I'll bring it in a generalized form so that nobody would know it's anybody. I talk about it in the way that is connection for the collective. That's it. I don't bring any personal details because we are one. And so I like to bring forward any lesson that is also evidentiary. And then you can also state, I don't want this discussed at all in any way. And then that's true as well. And then I won't. I always abide by the highest laws of higher order because I am in higher spiritual court. That's what I do. So please book a session if you want a session with me to get connected with your teams and guides in your sacred trinity, your soul's blueprint. Get in touch with me. We'll have a session. We'll have an activation. We'll have a healing, a lecture, a class, a webinar, whatever it is you'd like, just to sit and talk with me for a little while and get some of my energy. But you do have to pay for it. $250 US for 90 minutes. You do have to pay to get my energy and my wisdoms and my intelligences. Is there a question somebody wants to ask before we end off here? PayPal.me/Joanna L. Ross. Thank you. Thank you very much. So are you. It just came upon me through just having the processing every day of journaling. And I just heard Spirit continue to tell me to write things down and to draw the pictures that I was seeing in my visions. And I was asking Spirit, why do you want me to keep drawing these things down? And it ended up becoming my intellectual property. And then I now teach it, right? So I didn't really know back then why I was drawing these things. And Spirit just said, because you do this on other planets. And I was like, okay. So I just kept drawing and they seem very juvenile, right? But I can't, there's countless people that I've activated just by doing juvenile drawings. There's countless people I've activated. I'll write a little journal page, what it looks like to me. This is how, because I'm very tactile, right? I'm a starseed, I'm a tactile. I have to see things from a multidimensional perspective, and I'm shown things and I write them down and then I'm given downloads. So once this is my processing. When I draw something, I get activated and then that activation turns into a download and then I just have to journal it because I channel write. So that's how I'm activated by God. I channel write. So in my journaling, I've always loved journaling, and then it just became channel writing, and then I would draw a picture, and then as I'm drawing the picture, I'd get a download. And that download means that you're just writing and writing and writing and writing. That's a download. Because that's your channel, that's your God-given material to put it out in the collective. That's part of your gift. And everything is copyright. It's my intellectual property. Nobody owns this. And so I'm the only one that really does what I do on the planet. I'm the only one at this level of what I do. There is only one of me on this planet as far as what I do. I am a conduit. I'm a vibrational teacher, healer, and a leader. So I see things and however I'm given in the download. And my chakras are upgraded all the time. So I'm constantly upgrading and evolving to expand to the consciousness level of the galaxy and the multiverse, because I do help on the multiverse level, which means that Earth is getting a really good product out of me. A lot of people are getting paid except for me. And that's where the corruption has been. And that's where God said, that's it. God is cutting everybody off, no matter how elite these people think they are. Everyone's getting cut off. Their businesses, their deals, they're seeing their deals go sideways. Because everybody's making money off of me but me. And I'm sitting homeless. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting what people were doing. And the people that had their jealousy and the families involved didn't want me with a certain person, and they all got their little attitudes and their little energies in the air. Well, how about you go heal? Right? How about instead of ruining people's lives and ripping up communities and cities, how about you actually go heal? Go heal your jealousy, go heal your no sense of self and heal. But no, instead of healing, everything that I talk about is healing. Because if you're working from a karmic situation, then all you're doing is you're going to destroy everything that you like. Just heal people. No, you don't have to get charged with all these crimes. Go heal. Doesn't make sense. Everything I say, go heal, right? Anyways, really great people. Awesome. Awesome, man. Love you. See you tomorrow. And book a session, please. Donations. I love you. Donations. Bye. I love you.